Complex tissue in plants. Complex tissues are present in plant body as a vascular tissue. There is two kinds of plant vascular tissues belongs to complex tissues. They are xylem and phloem. Xylem carries water, dissolved nutrients to total parts of plants. Phloem carries products of photosynthesis like starch or organic solutes are transported to total parts of plant body through the phloem. Xylem transport water and nutrient transport towards upright or upward movement only. And the cells, xylem cells are dead at maturity. Dead at maturity means they didn't have any cytoplasm at the maturity stage. But phloem carries photosynthesis products, the products of photosynthesis towards upright and downward movement. Both directions occurs in the phloem tissue. Towards upright direction, towards downward direction, distributed photosynthesis products like carbohydrates. And the phloem cells are live at maturity. Live at maturity. Alive at maturity means they are having cytoplasm, protoplast at the maturity levels also, maturity time also. In xylem, vessel elements are having pitted cell walls. They look like a water pipeline. These are the major parts of the xylem. They look like a water pipeline. And tracheids are also having pitted walls. Phloem containing sieve tubes. The sieve tubes are perforated end walls. They are mainly helps in transport of sugars like photosynthesis end products. Companion cells also present in the phloem. They are mainly helps in the spheral cytoplasm to push sugar towards upward direction or downward direction. These are the companion cells presented outside of the sieve tubes. Now, from this complex tissue, we discuss phloem. The phloem structure. Phloem mainly helps in translocation of organic solutes to total plant parts towards upright direction and towards downward direction. And the phloem cells are alive at maturity. They are having cytoplasm at the maturity time also. Phloem, based on their origin, phloem can be classified into two types. They are primary phloem and secondary phloem. Primary phloem present in the primary parts of plant body. Secondary phloem present in the secondary growth time. Like during the secondary growth, newly developed secondary phloem from the cambium is called secondary phloem. The phloem, primary phloem or secondary phloem having these four major parts. One is sieve tube members, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. These are the four important parts of the phloem: sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. From these four parts, important part is sieve tubes. The sieve tubes are present in the phloem and they are also major part of the phloem tissue. Sugars and carbohydrates are distributed through the sieve tubes only. Sieve tubes look like a large length of tube-like structure. They are present one above the other. Between the two sieve tubes, one plate-like structure is present. The plate-like structure is called a sieve plate. Sieve plate containing pores-like structures, they are called sieve pores. During the translocation of organic solutes like sugars distributed through the sieve tube, during the distribution, some amount of organic solutes deposited on the sieve plate as a pyramid-like structure. Little bit of food material, little bit of sugar solutions are deposited on the sieve plate as a pyramid-like structure. The pyramid-like deposition of carbohydrates or sugars are called callose. And sieve tubes are having only cytoplasm. They contain liquid juice-like structure. In this cytoplasm, only juice-like structure, sugars, photosynthetic products are present. nucleus is absent in this cytoplasm. Nucleus absent in the sieve tube members. Outside of these sieve tubes, large length tube-like structures are present. They called companion cells. They are filled with protoplast. Protoplast containing nucleus, cytoplasm, and all cell organelles. So these are made helps in the supporting of organic solutes through the sieve tube members. So they are act as a helping cells in the phloem. The helping cells are also called companion cells. Outside of the companion cells, outside of the companion cells, parenchyma tissues are present. These are the parenchyma tissues. These are living cells. These are filled with nutrients, minerals, food materials. These are supplies to companion cells and these are supplies to sieve tube members. So these are mainly helping in the providing of food material to the sieve tubes and companion cells. The phloem parenchyma is again divided into two types: ray phloem parenchyma, tangential phloem parenchyma. Both phloem parenchymas are having food materials and they are helps in the supplying of food to the phloem sieve tubes and companion cells. Then outside of these phloem parenchyma, large fibers are present. The fibers are called phloem fibers. The phloem fibers are also called bast fibers. Bast fibers mainly helps in making of guinea bags, carpets. Means bast fibers or phloem fibers are also used commercially to making of guinea bags and carpets. It is the phloem structure and function in the plant body.